Ramayana Kalpavrksam.
Vinay Varanasi is talking about the Shakta perspective. And I want to say that the Telugu woman, as depicted in Telugu works, is feisty and she's fiery. Be it Satyabhama in the Bhama Kalapam, Goda in Amukta Malyada, or Sita. There is no docile submission here of the Telugu woman. The most beautiful description of Sita in the Ramayana Kalpavrksam is done by Hanuman. When he sees her sitting in the Ashokavanam for the first time, when his eyes fall on her, he says, first I read the poem, then I'll tell you the translation. Akruti Ramachandra Virahakruti Kanbomatiru Swami Chapakruti Kannulan Prabhu Krupakruti Kaishikamandu Rama Dehakruti Sarvadehamu Yanduna Raghava Vamsha Mauli Dharmakruti Puruchunna Vidhamantayu Swami Pratigya Murtiyai. He says her form is that of Ramachandra in Viraha. Her eyebrows are the shape of Rama's bow. Her eyes are filled with the same compassion as Sri Rama. Her hair reflects the dark blue of my Lord's body. Her entire body is a symbol of the dharma of the Raghuvamsha. She is seated there, an epitome of her Lord's promise. But that's not all. Sita throws a bloodthirsty challenge to Ravana. And she says, Ninnu Raktadhara Ramaniyamaina Chanu Dhararama Sanjala Vennegaga Nenorimi Talchedan Raghukulodvaha Kirti Patakayanaga. When the goddess of earth is bathed in the offering of your blood, I will be gratified as I see the flag of Raghukula flying aloft. The same feisty tone is adapted by Annamacharya also, when Sita says in one of his compositions, Rama, do not think that the battle of love is as easy to fight as your other battles. Velayu, nee virichina villu vantidi kaadu vilasillu na bommala vindlu gani. He says the villu or the dhanus of Shiva, for you to manage the dhanus of my eyebrows is not going to be as easy as you manage the Shiva dhanus. So that is a Telugu woman for you. An architect working in the environment sector, Vinay is a gifted storyteller, a lyricist and a keen believer in Indian knowledge systems. I invite Vinay to take us through the journey of Sita as Mahatripurasundari in his own inimitable way. I welcome Vinay Varanasi.
Namaskaram. It is such an honor, a privilege, and at the same time a little intimidating to be seated here amidst so many scholars, so many stalwarts, so many upasakas. But Ananda and Anupama have given me this fantastic opportunity of going first. So by the time the good scholars come, you would have forgotten what I've said. So I'm spared of all that's coming my way. But when Anupama and I were talking about what could be a topic for this that I could speak about, it naturally occurred to both of us that it should be about this goddess. Because yesterday most of you were here and Mere Chusuntaru, Rama emerged in all his splendor, both in the Ramamritam in the morning and in the evening with various art forms. But with the goddess, with Janaki, one beautiful aspect of her charitram is, if you look at this avataram of Rama, of Vishnumurti, if you take any other avataram, you see Lakshmi's role. But if you keep aside Lakshmi's external role, I'm watching my words, Lakshmi's external role, then the avataram can also go ahead parallelly. Krishna avataram, for example. Rukmini Kalyanam is a very beautiful component of Krishna avataram. But if you keep aside Rukmini Kalyanam, all the Asura Samharam he does, he looks like he's doing it alone. She is always there in his heart. But he looks like he's doing it all by himself. But in the case of this avataram, if you take away Sita, there is no story. There is absolutely nothing left. So this avataram has given a very unique placement to Amavaru and to her absolute rise. And that is why we chose to call this as Sita-MahaTripurasundari. Because unfortunately, the depictions of Sita in our world are that of the iconic TV Sita who is just sad, eternally wailing and is sitting under a tree waiting for a man to rescue her. But as Anupama Ka herself gave you a glimpse into what Sita stands for, the character of hers is hidden through Valmiki's works. And today is an attempt to just scratch the surface, just look at some episodes that are connected to Sita that we all know, but look at how can this be interpreted and understood from a Shakta perspective. To begin with, I think just the idea of Sita's arrival. Ramachandramurti is completely Vishnu Swarupam. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But despite being Vishnu's Purna Avataram, he has to sit for 10 months in Kausalya's Garbham. Valmiki himself says, Kausalya Janayad Ramam Sarvalakshana Samyuktam. That Rama is born to Kausalya after 10 months. But in the case of Sita, as we all know, she does not have any birth. She is just found by Janaka when he is plowing. And he finds her because when he's plowing the field, at the tip of the furrow, a small gold insertion is placed, which is called Nageti Chalu. I don't know the English equivalent of this. But that gold tip is what hits the casket in which Sita is discovered. He then adopts her and gives her the name Sita, which is the name given to this gold insertion. Now here is the beauty. No matter how much he is Vishnu, he still has to come into a human womb. But what about her? Why is she not born to Janaka and his wife? This is the first rahasyam of Devi. That whenever you look at Devi's avatarams, Devi is not born into a human womb. Look at all the avatarams you know. Sita, Radha, Parvati, Andal, Padmavati. The list is endless. She is only adopted. Because rahasyam number 1, she is Moola Prakriti. Moola Prakriti, you are reading this in the Lalita Sahasranamam, you know this better than me. Vishwagarbha, Swarnagarbha. The entire Vishwam is in her Garbham. So whose Garbham can take her? So therefore she will only appear. That is Moola Prakriti. And when she appears, there itself, Janaka has this realization that this is not an ordinary daughter. This is a Divyastri that is born to me. And that is why, look at the thing with the Valmiki Ramayana is that we tend to read it as a story or we tend to just see it. But if we pause and understand some nuances, we'll realize the characters are aware of who they are dealing with. Janaka has 2 daughters. His brother's daughters are the ones who marry Bharata and Shatrughna. But his 2 daughters marry Rama and Lakshmana respectively, Sita and Urmila. But the clause that Janaka places about breaking Shiva Dhanush is only given for Sita. It is not given for Urmila. He does not, simply because he is aware that this girl is not born from a human womb. This Dhanush that he has cannot be picked up by a human being alone. So he has already done the divine matching, saying only somebody extraordinary can do this phenomenal task. And in Valmiki Ramayanam, where we do not see any mention of a Sita Swayamvaram, the beautiful hint that all the rishis know who Sita is. It is the rishis alone who decide, it is their sankalpam that takes Rama from Ayodhya, whereas yesterday very beautifully you saw that he is crawling and falling into Kausalya's lap. But it is Vishwamitra and all the other rishis who decide and who realize collectively that if this continues, he will happily grow there. He has come for Asura Samharam. He has come in order to kill Ravana. And how is that going to happen? So all the rishis know that if they just take him and put him in her hands, I am watching my words very carefully, he has to be put in her hands, only then will the story move. Vishwamitra indicates this very beautifully. At the end of his yagyam, after Vishwamitra's yagyam, Rama asks him, where do we have to go now? What do we do now? My father asked me to follow you. And Vishwamitra answers very beautifully. He says, we must go to Mithila Nagaram, where Janaka Mahipati is having a yajnam. And at that point, he indicates, he gives it out. This is also Valmiki's innate bhakti for Jagadamba, that he says something very beautiful. Vishwamitra can just say that there is a yajnam happening over there and I want you to see the Shiva Dhanush. He doesn't say that. He says, I want you to see something. Adbhutam cha dhanur ratnam. He says, Adbhutam cha dhanur ratnam. There is an extraordinary jewel amongst bows, dhanur ratnam. But there are people who know Sanskrit much better than me here who will tell you that the word cha is also indicative that these 2 words can be separated. There is something adbhutam and there is a dhanur ratnam. That adbhutam is Sita-Ma Talli. And as Rama follows and they land up there, here is the next aspect to think about. Why Shiva Dhanush? At some level, there is a katha that this dhanush is given in Janaka's family, and then he decides that, you know, he will give it to the person who can string it. Why Shiva dhanush? Why not Brahma dhanush? Why not Lalita dhanusham? Why so many gods have bows? Why Shiva's in particular? This is where we have to draw the correlations between Shakta philosophy. If you look in the human body, the Kundalini, which rises from the Mooladhara Chakram till the Sahasrara Chakram, the Kundalini encounters three major blocks or three knots. Only when these three knots are overcome does the Kundalini reach from the Mooladharam till the Sahasraram. You are all reading this in the Sahasranamam again. Mooladharaika Nilaya Brahma Granthi Vibhedini Manipuranta Rudita Vishnu Granthi Vibhedini Agnya Chakrantaralastha Rudra Granthi Vibhedini. Now let's come to the third one, Rudra Granthi Vibhedanam. This Agnya Chakram is where the Rudra Grantha is broken. This is where the knot of Rudra breaks. From here, there is only one chakra left. It is only this point. And what happens when the Kundalini reaches the Sahasrara Chakram? It is at this point that Shiva and Shakti unite. Now go back to the story. Rama comes and breaks Shiva Dhanush. And look at the Dhanush itself. It's such a beautiful aspect, because if you take the eyebrows, breaking it is crossing this point. When he reaches there and he crosses from here, what happens? Sita Kalyanam. So when we say Sita Kalyana Vaibhogame, it is as much an internal happening as it is an external happening. And this idea that once Rama is placed in her hands, she will move the story, this idea forms the backbone of the Valmiki Ramayana. And I am not the first one to say it. Sadguru Tyagaraja Swami said this in much simpler words. Ma Janaki Chettapattaga Maharaju Vaitivi. Because you held my Janaki's hand. Look at Tyagaraja Swami. What apara Rama Bhakti. But all that he weighs down with one kriti, this beautiful kriti. He has written many kritis on Sita. But in this kriti, he is saying you became a Maharaja only because you held my Janaki's hand. That understanding, if you go with this understanding, you will see that the way she narrates and the way she drives the story is phenomenal. Let's move on to the Sundarakanda in particular, where we see Sita emerge with a whole different understanding. In the Sundarakanda, the beauty of this kanda, if you look at all the kandas in the Ramayanam, you will see that each of the kandas is named based on what is happening there. For example, Balakanda, Yuddha Kanda, Ayodhya Kanda, Aranya Kanda, it's common knowledge. Why is this Sundarakanda? It should have been called Hanumat Kanda, because Hanuman's arrival happens here. One school of thought says that here you find something called the Sundara Hanumat Mantram, which is a mantram associated with Hanumanta, which that mantram is hidden inside the Sundarakanda. But if you see the Sundarakandam in particular in the Ramayanam, there are three different ways of doing Parayanam of the Sundarakandam. The first is that you ascribe the entire Sundarakandam to Rama. You read it with the objective that Rama should protect you. So then you will say, Asya Shri Sundarakandas Mahamantrasya Shri Sita-Ramachandro Devata. That is the first way. The second is, if you ascribe the entire Sundarakandam to Hanuman and you read it for obtaining Hanuman's blessings, then you will say, Asya Shri Sundarakandas Stotra Mantrasya Shri Anjaneya Swami Devata. That is the second way. The third and the rarest method of this is to read the Sundarakandam with the objective of obtaining Sita's blessings. That is, Asya Shri Sundarakanda Stotra Mantrasya Shri Sita-MahaTripurasundari Devata. That Sita becomes the Devata over here. Now, if you view this aspect of the Sundarakandam, you will see from the first shlokam of the Sundarakandam onwards, Valmiki suggests that Hanuman and Sita no longer are characters. It is about a sadhaka that is about to have darshanam of Mahatripurasundari. And here is where we can see some beautiful correlations. Where is Sita? Where is her Aparaharanam? After her Aparanam, she has gone to Lanka. Lanka is a dvipam. It is an island in the middle of an ocean. And when Valmiki describes that island, he describes each of the enclosures in Lanka with all the trees, all of the jewels, the island is one of the most, it's a spectacle in itself to see. And as Hanuman goes enclosure by enclosure inside, he comes closer and closer to Sita. This exact idea Adi Shankaracharya depicted, and I will represent this with a shlokam that my Pedama has taught me. My Pedama, who is my biggest inspiration for what I do today, is seated here. So this shlokam is for her. This is one of the gems in the Saundarya Lahari. Sudha Sindhor Madhye, in the center of the ocean of bliss. Suravitapi Vati Parivrite, in the middle of endless golden Kalpavrksam trees. Suravitapi Vati Parivrite, Mani Dvipe Nipopa Vanavati. In that Mani Dvipam, in the middle of Kadamba trees, Mani Dvipe Nipopa Vanavati, Chintamani Gruhe, Shivakare Manche, Paramashiva Paryanka Nilayam, Bhajanti Twam Dhanyaha, Katijana Chidananda Laharim. Adi Shankaracharya says over there. Now you look at this idea that this Manidvipam, where Sita-MahaTripurasundari resides, is a place of absolute joy. Over there is absolutely no sorrow. And what is the Vanam in which Sita is placed? Ashoka Vanam. She herself has no shoka. That is why she is in the center of that Vanam. Ashoka Vanam Madhyastha Ravanadika Mohini is what the Sita Ashtotram says. And when Hanuman goes there to look for Sita, that searching is not an easy process. Because that searching is what we call as Anveshana in sadhana. The process of finding your Ishtadevata, that is not an easy process. And Valmiki's Chamatkaram lies in how he also numbers the episodes. In the Sundarkanda of 68 sargas, there are two very important sargas. The first one is, of course, there are many gems in Sundarkanda. This is not to reduce from that. But look at the chapter in which Hanuman is about to give up. In that chapter, Hanuman's mental disposition drops in absolutely no time. He says, I have not found her, and if I don't find her, then Rama is going to be disappointed. If Rama is disappointed, Rama will die. If Rama dies, then something will happen to Lakshmana. If Lakshmana goes, Bharata and Shatrughna will go. Bharata and Shatrughna go. Kausalya, Sumitra, Kaikeyi, all of them will go. Ikshvaku, Amsham will go. The Vanara Kulam will go. Everything will be gone, all because of me. Tuck, 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 tuck in a few steps. That's it. And that's very relatable for all of us. This is a normal process in sadhana. But when Hanuman slips over there, internally, he finds some resilience. And internally, this happens in the 13th chapter, where he says, I will stay alive. Vinasho bhavo dosho jivan prapnoti bhadratam. That finding life and staying alive is a blessing. There are many doshas associated with giving up my life. I will stay alive. When he conquers his sorrow like this, which happens in the 13th chapter, I'm stressing on 13th, because 13 is the exact digits in the Rama Taraka Mantram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. When Hanuman attains that Rama Mantra Siddhi, then in that chapter he says, oh, there is an Ashoka Vanam. When does he find the Ashoka Vanam? When he goes beyond his own Shokam with Rama Mantra Siddhi. So now invert the Ramayana. We think that you need Sita's grace to attain Rama, which you very much do. But you need Rama's grace to attain Sita. That is what Valmiki has hinted by putting this in the 13th chapter. So from here, when Hanuman says, I will go in the Ashokavanam and I will find her, we then see how as he goes closer, he finds her in the 15th chapter. Again, Valmiki's Chamatkaram. Why not 14th chapter? 14 has a role to play in Ramayana. Anyway, his Vanavasam is also 14 years. But to place her in the 15th chapter, in Sri Vidya Upasana, the Panchadashi Mantram is the ultimate mantram of the Mother Goddess. That mantram, which cannot be disclosed in Sabhas, has 15 syllables. 15 syllables over there. 15th chapter is the first time Hanuman has darshanam of Sita. So when Hanuman has that beautiful darshanam of Sita, before he does, now we see Hanuman as a sadhaka establishing who is this goddess. And when he sees her for the first time, he makes a series of comparisons. He looks at her, and his own poetry comes forth, and Valmiki's poetry as well, where Hanuman says, she looks like Agni that is covered by smoke. She looks like a Smriti text that is filled with doubt. She looks like Buddhi that has been started on the first day after Purnima. Because if anybody starts learning anything on the first day after Purnima or Amavasya, that is on Padyami, that Buddhi, Kshinam, it becomes lesser. So he sees all of her brightness, but he also sees that she's waned. If you ignore the second parts, that is all of the negative aspects of what he says, you take the words Buddhi, Shraddha, Prajna, Smriti, just draw parallels from the Durga Saptashati. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samsthita, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samsthita, Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Smriti Rupena Samsthita, Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaha. All the words that come there in the Saptashati, Valmiki uses those exact set of words and a few more, indicating that Hanuman is doing a stotram to Sita. Hanuman's own understanding of Sita also changes by this time. Until even now, when he's finally looking for Sita, he makes one beautiful slokam. He says, Namostu Ramaya Salakshmanaya. I am bowing down to Rama who is eternally with Lakshmana. He can say the same thing about Sita. No, he can say, I am bowing down to Rama who is with Sita. There he inserts the word. Devyai chatasye Janakatmajaye. This Devi, who is now in the form of Janaka's daughter, I am bowing down to her. When he has this, she doesn't deny him the darshanam anymore. And as he goes forward, when he eventually sees her, this is the beauty. Hanuman, if he were just a Vanara or if he were just a human, he would have used some quick logic to conclude who she is. Because his first establishment is through her physical attributes. So he says, look at all the ornaments that she is wearing. Ramachandra described to me in Kishkinda Kandam, Ramachandra describes to him what all she is wearing on which angam of hers. So he says, as per Swami's description, identical she is matching. Let's remember, Rama gave no Instagram profile of Sita, nothing for him to match. So he has to go there and look for somebody he's never seen in his life before. So when he does that, he makes the first thing, saying, whatever Rama has said, I can see this. Second aspect, whatever she dropped when she was going with Ravana, whatever she dropped from the Pushpak Vimanam, those abharanas are missing on her body. Third, she tied them quickly into a cloth. I see her wearing a cloth which is slightly torn, so I can understand therefore that this is the same cloth, and he does the match the following like many people do in blouse shops. So he's established. But if he were a Vanara, he would stop here. If he were a human mind, he would stop here. A sadhaka is not looking only for the physical attributes. A sadhaka is looking for the divine lakshanas within her. And Valmiki gives us two beautiful slokams that talk about two very important principles in Shakti Sampradayam, in Shakta Sampradayam. The first slokam is, Asya Devya Yatha Rupam. This Devi's form, Yatha Rupam, Anga Pratyanga Saushthavam. Her every anga, her every limb. How is it? Ramasya cha Yatha Rupam. How Rama is in his every limb. Asyayam Asitekshana. That's exactly how she is. Now this is Samayacharam. This is the concept of Samayacharam, that they match each other. This is exactly Ardhanarishwara Tattvam. That when you see them both together, they match so perfectly. If you have ever seen an image of Ardhanarishwara, they're not disproportionate. In the same body, there is so much of duality happening, but they're so beautifully put together because Shiva and Shakti are inseparable. That idea which comes as the last word of the Lalita Sahasranam, Shri Shiva Shiva Shakti Aikya Rupini, she who is the merging of Shiva and Shakti. Here Valmiki depicts saying she who looks exactly like Rama. This is his one shlokam that suggests that Hanuman sees Rama and Sita. In the second shlokam, whenever Valmiki stresses, and please remember this because we will see another such example in a few minutes. Whenever Valmiki stresses on one particular word or he uses the same words in a few shlokams, we know that we have to underline and learn those things. The same next shlokam begins with the same words. Asya Devya Manastasmin Tasya Chasyam Pratishtitam. This lady, this Devi, not this lady, this Devi who is seated here, she has Raghava firmly in her mind, and Raghava has her firmly in her mind. That is exactly why Teneyam Sacha Dharmatma Muhurtam Api Jivati. Why is she alive? She is alive only because she has Raghava in her mind and Raghava has her in her mind, in his mind. This aspect is about Purusha and Prakriti. Only as long as Purusha wishes will Prakriti exist outside. If Purusha doesn't want it, all of it will go back into him. And only as long as Prakriti wishes will Purusha remain engaged. Without both of them wanting each other like that, they will constantly, there will not be any samsara. So then Sita gives him darshanam after these beautiful shlokams, and then of course we know the conversation that happens between both of them. And but I want to move on to how within this, after their conversation with each other, which is very, very beautiful and nuanced, but in the interest of time, we go on looking, when we look for Sita as Tripurasundari, there are points in the Sundarakandam when it comes out where you cannot hide it anymore. Because even when Hanuman is conversing with her, you can hide it because she's sad. She herself is in Ashokavanam, but she is in Shokam. So you can see the human elements of the story that come out here. And the heart goes out to that Sita as well. It is not that she is not distressed being away from her husband. But like Anupamaka said, the tone that she gives to Ravana, Sita, Draupadi, whenever Mahalakshmi is angered, we know that the Vinasham of that Kulam is very, very near. So that itself is indicated over here. She herself tells Ravana that if I wanted with my own tapas, I could have destroyed you completely, but I am not doing that because this is meant for him to do. So let him come and do his work. And further, as the katha goes on, Hanuman meets her and he tells her, Amma, I'll leave now, I'll take your leave. Hanuman says that, not me, I'm still here for a few minutes. And when Hanuman says this to her, he says, I have a small thing to do. I'll finish that small thing. That small thing is Lanka Dahanam. Here is something to pause and see. When Jagannatha is angered, Jagannatha's anger, as we said, equates to Sarvam. Everything is destroyed. This is not the only form of Jagannatha who destroyed. Look at the context of Sita and Ravana. Ravana wants Sita for himself, which means that he does not see her as Rama's Ardhangiri. He thinks Rama is separate, Sita is separate. The second you separate Purusha and Prakriti and you want Prakriti alone, that you believe you can manipulate Prakriti and have her as your own, your destruction is very near. The same parallel you draw, there's an avataram of Jagannatha where she comes And there is one person who does not want to see her with her husband and does something to insult her husband. She goes to that man's house and she burns his house. Who am I talking about? Sati, when she goes to Daksha's Yajnam. There also she burns, here also she burns. Because Daksha and Ravana are identical in many ways. Daksha does not want to acknowledge Shiva, Ravana does not want to acknowledge Rama. The minute you do not want to see Purusha along with Prakriti, you have limited Prakriti to just what you are seeing in front of you. To remind you that she is eternally his, she will bring you down to Bhasmam. And that is why Hanuman goes to do Lanka Dahanam. But when Hanuman does Lanka Dahanam, Sita with all her tapas emerges for us. Because Tripurasundari, on one hand, is about how Hanuman sees her. How does Hanuman see her? Even while he's talking to her, even while he's leaving. In various Ramayanas, the last look Hanuman gives to her is, although she is Mahatripurasundari, who is she thinking of? Again, we draw from Shakta Sampradayam, where we see one beautiful verse that Valmiki says. He says that she is Ramamevanu Pashyati. She's seeing, she's in the middle of Ashokavanam, there are Rakshasis all around her. All of this is happening. But for her, she sees Rama and Rama alone. If you go into Manidvipam, which is not that easy to go into, but there when you see Lalita Mahatripurasundari, Lalita Mahatripurasundari's eyes are not open, contradicting the pictorial depictions that we have. Lalita Mahatripurasundari's eyes are almost open. They are slightly open, as a matter of fact, because as the Ashtotram says, Nija Bhadru Mukhamboja Chintanaye Namo Namaha. Her eyes are closed and she is constantly contemplating on her husband. And that is what is making Lalita smile. If you see the smile of Kanchi Kamakshi, it's because she's thinking of her husband. Sita has the same smile in her because she's thinking of Rama. So this beautiful aspect comes out, and when she's thinking of Rama, who is a Dharmatma, Sita's own Dharma is not anything less. So what happens is Hanuman goes out for Lanka Dahanam, and one of the Rakshasis comes and tells Sita that, are you aware that that monkey that came and spoke to you, that monkey's tail is being burnt, so he's being taught a lesson for what he did. At this point, Sita panics because she says, he has come just for my sake. Now he has come for my sake and his tail is going to be burnt. Is it fair? This is where you distinguish that this is not a human being. If it is a human being, you will pray. You will just say, I hope Hanuman is okay. Sita does not say that. Sita presents the dharma that she followed and uses that dharma to negotiate what should come for Hanuman. Because when we look at this, we understand why she is a dharma swarupini herself. She says very, very beautifully, she makes 4 shlokams, all ending with the same 4 lines. Shito bhava hanumataha. May Hanuman be cool. And in those, I will take one gem of a shlokam amongst all of them. She says, this is a beautiful way of negotiating dharma, which means that you present the dharma you are following and say, if this dharma is true, not if I have followed this dharma truly without any mistakes, that I might have forgotten to fast on Ekadashi, nothing like that. If this dharma has value, Shito bhava hanumataha, Hanuman's tail will be cool. What is that dharma? She says, Yadimam vritta sampannam, if I have been true to my vratam of what? My pativratam. Yadimam vritta sampannam tat samagamalasam, if I am waiting to be with him, with what? Manasa vacha karmana. If my mind, my speech and my actions want to be with him and him alone. Look at the layers. Yadimam vritta sampannam, if I have been true to my vratas, and if I want to be with him and him alone, and a third clause, Savijanati dharmatma, if that dharmatma, Ramachandra, knows this, then let Hanuman's tail be cool. So when does she say, what is the layering of our dharma? That if all these things are true, Hanuman's tail will be cool. And sure enough, Hanuman's tail is very much cool. And when Hanuman looks at his tail, he's burnt all of Lanka. He looks at his own tail and he said, how is it that my tail is not burning? How is it that I'm not feeling anything at all? And he says 3 beautiful things. One of them is Rama Prabhavad Ashcharyam. I'm amazed at the Prabhava of Rama that can protect anybody anywhere. That is Sri Rama Raksha, Samasta Jagat Raksha, as everybody in Andhra says. And the second thing is, this is because of the tapas of Sita that I am protected. At various points, Hanuman uses Agni references to talk about Sita because Hanuman understands that this Mahatripurasundari is the same one that is spoken about in the Durga Suktam, where he says, Tam Agnivarnam tapasa jwalantim vairochanim karma phaleshu jushtam Durgam Devi Gum Sharanamaham Prapadde Sutarasi Tarase Namaha. I am bowing down to that goddess who is Agnivarnam and who is Karma Phalapradayini. So which Agni burned down Lanka? Was it the Dharma Agni or was it Sita's Krodha Agni? That is a question to stay and to pause with. And as we see this beautiful connection growing between Sita and Hanuman, who are independent characters, you can also find this represented very beautifully in the Lalita Sahasranamam. This comes exactly in the words Dhara Dhara Suta Dhanya. Okay, look at the words Dhara Dhara Suta. Typically, in the translations of the Lalita Sahasranamam that we have available now, Dhara Dhara Suta is translated to Dhara Dhara refers to mountain. So the daughter of the mountain king, Dhara Dhara Suta, the daughter of the mountain king, referring to Parvati. But Bhaskaracharya's commentary says that you have to split the words. It is Dhara, Dhara Suta. Dhara Suta is Bhumi, Bhumi Suta. And look at the immediate next word. That's how you know that it is Sita that is being spoken about. Dhara Dhara Suta Dhanya, Dharmini, Dharmavardhini. The one who is in Dharma herself and is an epitome of Dharma, as we just showed you. So that is how you know whether you're talking about Sahasranamam, whether you're talking about Valmiki Ramayanam, wherever you see, Sita is coming out in absolute unabashed glory. And this comes out not just in the Valmiki Ramayanam, but also in terms of understanding how Sita becomes that patra that is necessary for Rama's grace. Even in Shakti Sampradayam, when you look, Shiva cannot be attained without Shakti. The reverse is also true, as we just showed you. But there is a beautiful, more contemporary story that I spoke about recently, but it's very close to my heart, so I will share it again, which this happened in this Punya Bhumi of Andhra, where this name is familiar to several of you. This is Shri Tadepalli Raghava Narayana Shastri, a phenomenal Devi Upasaka, and his bhakti for Ammavaru was so much that amongst various mantras that he had attained Siddhi in, he had attained Siddhi in the Sita Mantram and the Rama Mantram. And during this beautiful episode, somebody once comes to him and asks him for a mantram, asks him for the Sita Mantram, and he gives it to her. This lady takes it, and she comes back to him a few days later, and she says, I stopped chanting the mantram you gave me because my problems have become more after I started chanting this mantram. I'm referring to this story particularly because it really upsets and triggers me when I see that people have problems naming their children Sita, believing that those daughters will have a life of difficulties. That is exactly why I'm touching upon this story. So this lady came to him very recently. This happened a few decades ago. She came to him and she said, I'm leaving Sita Mantram because I don't want it anymore. He felt very bad. And that night Sita came to him and she said, every Punarvasu Nakshatram, you do a puja for Rama and me. This time in the Punarvasu Nakshatram, I will not come because you gave my mantram to someone who was not fit for it. So when you call me, I will not come. And he felt extremely bad, but what could he do? And sure enough, when he sat down to do his Parayanam of Pattabhishekam on Punarvasu Nakshatram, he said, Bharatamavahayami, Shatrughnamavahayami. He saw those devatas. That was his mantra siddhi. And when he said Sita-MahaTripurasundari, she didn't come. But he had to continue with the puja. So with a rock on his heart, he continues. Then he says, Rama-Mavahayami. And when he sees Rama, he sees her coming with her. And then he says, Amma, you said you won't come. How did you come? And she says, I thought I wouldn't come, but what to do? You called him, no. How could I not come? That is Sita Charitram. So if you look from every angle, she emerges. Her grace is absolutely necessary. What I took so long to say, Bhadrachal Ramdas said in the easiest, simplest sentence, Nanu Brovamani Cheppave Sitamma Talli. Why don't you tell him to think of me? But I want to leave you with one beautiful aspect. Sita-MahaTripurasundari revealed herself to Hayagriva, who revealed himself to Agastya Muni. That is how we have the Lalita Sahasranamam, the Lalita Ashtotram, the Trisati, and all of the important texts in Srividya Sampradaya. Come to the Sundarakanda. Anjaneya Swami has Panchamukhas. We are all familiar with this. Where in the Sundarakanda do you see the Panchamukhas? Do you see them at all? In the Sundarakanda, the Panchamukhas of Anjaneya are shown by the various activities that he does. The Kapimukham anyway is the Mukham that he has. So that is one cover. The Garuda Mukham, we see this in the Yuddha Kandam, when the Visham that Indrajit ties Rama and Lakshmana with various Sarpastras. At that time, Rama says, where is Hanuman? Suddenly Garuda appears and he extracts all the Visham from the entire Vanarasena and Rama and Lakshmana. That is the Garuda Mukham. Look at the Ayudha that Hanuman uses in the Sundarakandam. As Amiji has beautifully pointed out in many of her talks, Hanuman does not have the Gada anywhere in the Sundarakandam. He uses his nails alone, that Nakhayudham. Nakhayudham, which avataram uses of Narayana? Narasimha avataram. That is the Narasimha Mukham. And the Varaha Rupam, the Varaha Mukham. Varaha Rupam will come in the evening today. Varaha Mukham. What does Varaha Swami do? When Bhudevi is drowning in Samudram, Varaha Swami picks her up. When here Bhuputri is drowning in Shoka Samudram, Anjaneya Swami lifts her up. That is Varaha Mukham. But let's go to the fifth Mukham. The fifth Mukham of Anjaneya Swami is Hayagriva Mukham. Hayagriva Mukham is the Mukham that gives Jnanam. Hayagriva Mukham His Sita-MahaTripurasundari gives it to Anjaneya Swami, who has Hayagriva Mukham, who gives it to Valmiki. Lalita Mahatripurasundari gives it to Hayagriva Swami, who gives it to Agastya, and that's how it reaches all of us. So the connections between Sita and Devi are so many. Between Anjaneya Swami and Hayagriva Swami, you just saw one. And to explore the connections between Valmiki and Agastya, I'll wait for Ananda and Anupama to have the next conference. But I will leave you with an image that you see behind me. I hope you see it behind me. Yes, so this is an artistic impression that I had made of the very first darshanam that Hanuman sees of Sita. And I read a beautiful version in Kannada that says, the very first time that he saw her, he forgets everything and he sees in her three aspects. He sees a divine mother, he sees a divine ruler, and he sees the one who is presiding over the cosmos. Three words, Shri Mata, Shri Maharagni, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari. With that, offering this to the feet of Shri Sita Rama, Swasti.
Ramayana Kalpavrksam